Indeed. Okay. So we're going to move on now to a topic that's kind of bubbling up a lot more recently. Yeah. And you're actually an amazing person to talk to about this because you're a pro gamer. But I want to talk about, should we consider pro gamers athletes? Because, with the World Cup sort of hype now, a lot of people are who aren't necessarily into sports all the time are sort of like sports all of a sudden and like, yay, soccer. Or football. Yeah. And I just want to sort of talk about people who aren't necessarily into esports all the time, but they sort of see things like the Dota 2 tournament has a $10 million prize pool at this point, and they're like, esports, yes, we love this all of a sudden. Yeah. But I don't know if we should be considering the people who are playing the games athletes or not. And this is a really big debate that I see come up in basically every single article that I write is, they're not athletes, don't call them athletes. But, pro gamers train super hard. They have crazy regimes that they go through, just like regular athletes. Yep. They're not like, you look physically strong like a normal athlete, but a lot of them don't, train in the same way, but they still train really hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's go around and sort of talk about, that whole thing.
Yeah, the first thing I want to bring up is a couple months ago, I brought it to Mitch's attention with that. The league players for coming in to play for LCS, if they're foreign, get the same visas that athletes do.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not sure if it says it's athletes. It may say it's
I think it is an athlete's visa.
Or a competitor's visa,
sure.
Something like that. So, in at least the government's mind, they're coming in to compete in an event. So I definitely think that is a forward motion into, yes, I think they're athletes.
Sure.
They're these people that are coming into... Maybe not completely fit the physical thing, but they are coming in to compete.
It's a hard thing, right? Because we've been so attuned for literally centuries that an athlete is somebody who is like physical prowess, like Grecian Olympics. The original Grecian Olympics is like you are the best manifestation of an athlete wins the Olympics. So now we're approaching this time in history where people are playing video games with, athletic proficiency. There are comparable levels of skill and comparable levels of training, and the layout of a team is you have 5 people who are cooperating, and they have a coach, and they have people who are in charge of their named organization. It is very similar to a sport. It is very similar to any mainstream league like the NHL or the NFL or the NBA or whatever. And we're sort of getting used to the idea of these people aren't doing something that is as physically taxing as playing a soccer match, but they are doing things that require a similar level of skill in the context of what they're doing.
Yeah. And at least in an organizational perspective, they're now hiring, teams, at least in the top teams, are hiring, like coaches and, people purely do analysis. People to watch film and watch the team play and not be, motivate them, but to be, look at this specific thing we're doing, and we're going to work on that one thing today. And having someone paid to do that, as soon as you start, I think having a structure in place like that, then you are legitimizing the entire esports athlete persona package. Yeah.
What do you have to say about this? As a professional player.
Yeah.
I would love if you were like, no, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, one thing I will say is, at the end of the day, it's all semantics, right?
Sure.
You could sit here and argue about how you're going to define an athlete, but does it really matter? No, because whether you think it's they're an athlete or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just people just need to be open-minded to the fact that this is happening, whether you like it or not, and how you're going to recognize it. That's on you. That's your opinion. I think people just need to be more accepting of the fact that this is something individuals choose to do. This is something that they're good at, and it's not necessarily they don't have to be in there. Like you said, I've been a 20 sport athlete my entire life. I grew up playing sports. That's what I did, and that's why I came into video games. While I was playing sports, I was getting older, and I was going to go to college, and I was eventually I'm not going to be able to play sports anymore. On a competitive level. So what can I do to feed that competitive fire? So this was another way to do it. You're not running, a mile or lifting, or pushing people around or jumping up to grab a rebound. But the mental side is there, obviously. Like imagine someone, you're in the playoffs, you're shooting a free throw or something. You have to have the mental toughness to, kind of zone everything else out and just do what you need to do. And that's more prevalent in video games, I'd say, because especially with the mouse, one small movement can be a pretty large movement in the game. So to have like the the mental dexterity to not let things bug you, and so you make that little mechanical mistake or even mental mistake, decision making, that's a big deal, and it's something that is shared between a sport a traditional sport or an esport. But yeah, like I said, I was at the gym the other day and I heard someone say, ping pong's more of a sport than soccer, and it's like, people always argue what is, but it's,
Who
but
cares?
is
Like,
it,
why can't you just enjoy
right.
it?
Yeah, I think the fact is that it's here. Even a Smite team right now is being salaried to play, and it's a new game, so that's not going to change. That's something that's going to continue. The video game industry, as you guys know, is huge, and it's not getting any smaller. So people are just going to have to be more open-minded about it, and that's the important thing, I think.
Do you remember the first time you got a kill in a MOBA? Like,
No.
I do. I remember it so vividly. Like, I remember scoring my first goal in hockey. Like, I just had, like, such a similar rush of feelings.
Really?
Like, and every time I get a kill in Dota, and every time we win, it feels like winning a hockey game or a baseball game. Like, any sport I played growing up, there's a similar feeling. Like, man, I hit a base hit.
Yeah.
Feels like getting a kill in a MOBA to me.
Yeah.
Like, they're just... I don't know. The chemical reaction is very similar to me.
I will say, maybe not the first kill, but there's times where especially in Counter-Strike when I was on big stages at like WCG or something, and you clutch around, like
you turn things around and people cheer.
You just want to scream and you want to yell, and that seems kind of strange because you're sitting down playing a video game. But that's the same feeling I got when I was in high school and I'd score like a game-winning basket. Like you go, you just pump your fist, like it's the same feelings.
Yeah.
It's just a different, mechanism to get there.
Totally. I mean, I think it's just what you're saying. It's semantics. Like, this is here to stay. Esports is here. It's a thing now. Like you're saying, these players are getting salaried for multiple games now to play them professionally. There are teams. There are team houses. There are coaches nowadays. You can get a visa to come over here. I mean, it's a thing. So I'm sort of proud of esports. I've followed it for a really long time, and I'm glad that it's to this point now where we can sort of have these types of discussions and be smart about where it's at today. And one other thing that I was really sort of proud with the esports community was at DreamHack this last weekend with this Hearthstone tournament. So I know we usually talk about MOBAs here, but there was this sort of weird controversy that happened at DreamHack with the Hearthstone tournament. You're nodding your head, so you must have been following this.
I saw it.
So basically what happened was in the finals of the DreamHack Hearthstone tournament, one of the players, RDU, was messaged what the other player he was playing against had in his hand.
Whoa!
And it was in the very last sort of round, and it was eventually deemed that him getting that information had no sort of strategical bearing on the win. He would have won no matter what. There was only sort of one play he could have done, and so knowing what the other guy had didn't matter. But, everyone was just like, oh my God, this guy got told, what was in his hand. They had the exact same reaction that you just did, get out the pitchforks, like this guy's cheating the whole time, and sort of, and that was sort of what happened on day one. And then the next day, the guy who he was playing against, Amaz, sort of came out. He sent out this video saying he didn't cheat. Like, you guys need to calm down.
That's good for him.
And it was really good for him. And that's exactly what I'm getting to, is that was sort of a nice professionalism that I saw in Amaz, but I didn't exactly see in the community who got out these pitchforks all of a sudden. So what do you think about that whole controversy?
I saw that video too, because I actually, before I go to bed, I turn on some streams and stuff, and every once in a while I watch a Hearthstone stream, and it was interesting, and it was, he's a really nice guy in general, and he's a big streamer.
Right.
And I think that kind of shows you the power of having a big viewership, having, 10,000 viewers. Those people, obviously, when you lose, they're going to find a reason why you lost, and they're just going to attack. And so as soon as they heard that, he did get information about his cards, it was a big deal, but it was good for him to come out and say, calm down. I lost. I didn't get cheated. I lost, and that's a very mature thing to do. And it's a good thing to see from the video game industry because, you see a lot of, I think a lot of people view us as like kids, and we're immature and stuff, but that's like a very mature thing to do is to accept defeat and acknowledge that, something weird probably happened, but
he still outplayed me.
Yeah, he outplayed me. I lost, and that's what happened, and I'll do my best to win next time. So I think it was a good step forward for like everyone in the community.
I think so too. But Blizzard, add a do not disturb or something for these games, or DreamHack needs
to add a tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
spectator
mode. That's actually a really interesting point. I was going to say that about Smite earlier. Is that Blizzard obviously didn't do much to prevent things like that from happening.
Yeah.
And going forward, I think the companies, the developers that are more involved in the competitive scene will see their games be more successful because I know Hi-Rez is a company that they basically did the whole launch tournament themselves, and they're very involved in the community. And people post on forums all the time and talk about, what needs to be done for casual play, for tournament play, for everything, and they listen and they respond.
Right.
And I think that's something that needs to happen going forward. You can't just sit in your little developer bubble and say, no, this is what needs to happen. No, this is what needs to happen. Because there's thousands of people playing your game that have pretty good opinions because they play for a lot of hours every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that definitely needs to be looked at, and I think as a community, as video game players, people should gravitate towards games that the developers respect their opinion, because that's what ultimately should be done, and that's going to help their gameplay experience anyway.
That'll be the natural order of things too. Like a community that knows the developers are listening and involving them is the community that will foster.
Right.
That's going to be that's just where people are going to go, because if they're playing a game and nobody's giving them feedback or responding to their feedback, they're just going to bounce.
Yeah.